God speaks of true and false fasts, ritual and religion versus reality in relationships. God uses physical pictures to teach spiritual truths. God looks forward to the joy of the millennial kingdom, and we learn what to look for in elders and deacons. Today on 3-in-1, as we consider Isaiah chapters 58 through 60 and 1 Timothy chapter 3. Isaiah 58 hit me hard today. It's an intense chapter to read since it seems that God calls out even the most committed of Christians and says, "Come on, guys. I see you after the church service. I see you and what you do when you get home and throughout the week. And do you really think that I'm blessed and impressed by you singing songs and saying words for an hour and 15 minutes once a week?" Oofda, as we would say here in Minnesota. God is highlighting the difference between ritual and the reality of a right relationship with God. And make no mistake, even as believers, we can make the Sunday morning service into a ritual, a religious ritual in an attempt to appease God so that we can live our lives selfishly and sinfully throughout the week. And that's just awful. I mean, think this through. What if I were to meet with my wife once a week for an hour and 15 minutes and then sleep around, giving my time, attention, and devotion to other women all week long? And no, that was not too intense of an analogy. What we do to God is much, much worse than even that. His one and only Son was shredded and beaten bloody and bled out on the very device that defines the word excruciating. And we think that we can give a high five to the Holy One once a week and think that we're done, spitting in his face with our sin all week long, thinking that he doesn't see our sin and that he doesn't see our sick selfishness. No, he sees it, and he grieves greatly over it, and he's calling out to you and to me to change. Sunday service is only a small portion of your overall relationship, your real relationship with the one who bought you with his own blood. It's only the large group gathering portion. There is so much more in walking with him and serving him daily. There's the small group gathering, where you meet with a committed group of believers to seek the Lord together, living your lives together, ministering and being ministered to. And then there's the individual interaction that you have with God, the intimacy that you have with God. And remember, intimacy means close familiarity, friendship. What would need to happen for you and God, to be close friends? Well, it would take time, and it would take getting to know each other. So what would it look like to get to know God? Well, the first part would be found in his word, where he reveals himself to us. In his word, where we can find out what he's like and what he's done, and the fact that he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Then the second part would be to enter into actually serving him. See, you will learn so much more when you put your hand to the plow in a hands-on internship of sorts. Just start being intentional about at least acknowledging God in your acts of service. Just say, "God, this is for you because I love you." Now, what would it take for God to get to know you? And immediately, some of you are starting to think, he already knows all about me, so what do you want me to say? And I get it, guys. You're uncomfortable with intimacy. Well, I'm here today as a guy to say, get over it. Jesus died for you. The least you can do is talk to him and tell him regularly what you're going through and how it bothers you, and share with him your hurts and your pains and your struggles and your questions and your joys and your successes, as well as your sin and your selfishness, like you would with your best friend. Because, guys, that is who you're talking to. God is the best friend that we will ever have. One who will never, ever, ever let us down or love us any less, no matter what we do or say. So why not enter into that friendship today? Why not enter into that real relationship today? Not just a checked box at a Sunday service for our religious duty and then lying to ourselves all week long that he does not see our sin and selfishness and that it does not grieve his heart. Because as we read today, it does. So if you truly believe that we would be eternally in the lake of fire apart from the selfless sacrifice of Jesus Christ, the one that loves you as much today as he did on that holy day so long ago, then enter in and love him back. Talk to him. Don't just think about it. Do it. Talk to him. Talk to him about how you struggle with talking to him. Acknowledge him throughout your day. It could be as simple as saying, God, I know you're with me. And as I make these meals for my family, I want you to know that ultimately this is for you, because I love you. Or, as I pick up this extra shift at work to pay the mortgage, God, I want you to know that it's for you, God, because I love you, Lord. Practice that. Practice acknowledging the presence of God. For whether we acknowledge him or not, the reality is he is with us every day, all day, not just one day, not just Sunday. So, which would you rather have? A grieving God with a broken heart over your religious ritual and then subsequent selfishness and sin? Or a constant companion and the best of friends? Well, there is one in this relationship that is willing to be in the second category. And the choice daily is ours now. Okay, what do we read in the New Testament today in 1 Timothy chapter 3? Well, we read of the Apostle Paul teaching Timothy what to look for as he was to acknowledge elders and deacons in Ephesus. And this was why the Apostle Paul sent Timothy to Ephesus in the first place. Now, I want to ask a few important questions. Does God ultimately ordain, or does man ultimately ordain? Are these qualifications to look for, or a job description to give to someone who is appointed? Should we appoint publicly people to serve officially in these capacities? These are all questions that I constantly wrestle with as a pastor, as God has sent me here to this city. And here's where I am today. God is the one that ordains, and I am to simply recognize what God has already done. I think it would be dangerous to simply appoint a person and then direct them to 1 Timothy 3 in order to know what they're to do from this point forward. So instead, I take the qualifications here as character traits to look for in people who are already simply serving in their God-given calling. For man cannot ordain elders or even deacons. They are giftings and callings given by God. And the best part is that those who are genuinely serving in their God-given calling don't even know or realize that they even are an elder or a deacon, which I think is fantastic. Because then you know it's not for show. It's really for the Lord. And if someone really wants to be publicly recognized as an elder or a deacon before they will fulfill what we see here in 1 Timothy chapter 3, then can you see that they are already disqualified? So just be what God has made you to be. Just do what God has called you to do without coveting. For that was one of the core components that Jethro told Moses to look for when he was delegating leadership. Jethro told Moses to look for men who hated covetousness, men who hated the sin of wanting power or a position that they didn't currently have. For that's what it often ultimately comes down to, if you're honest. You really don't want to be publicly recognized as an elder or a deacon so that you can serve people as an elder or a deacon. You could do that without the announcement. Sometimes we want to be publicly recognized because it would soothe some insecurity that we have. And then we think, if I have the power or the position of authority, then I could choose the color of the carpet in the sanctuary. Who cares about the color of the carpet in the sanctuary? There are souls that Jesus bled out for that need to be served and cared for. And that means that you have to be willing to get your hands dirty and actually serve them without any desire for recognition, since this is all ultimately out of the overflow of your real relationship with God, right?